So Venom: The Last Dance is the stupidly named final film in the Venom series. Hopefully. They're saying this is meant to close out a 3-film story, and when it's the title, like The Last Dance, there's a little bit of finality to that, so I am hoping to God that means we don't have to suffer through another Venom movie again. Because, yeah, believe it or not, I'm not a fan of these movies. Like, at all. I thought that the first film had plenty of promise. I didn't think that a Venom solo film was a bad idea. What I did think was a bad idea was not having Spider-Man involved in any capacity and also making it rated PG-13 and injecting it with a bunch of garbage humor that is painfully unfunny. And then we got that again in Venom: Let There Be Carnage, except Venom's voice got way more stupid. You know what? I'm just gonna stop myself right here before I go down a rabbit hole. We're talking about the new one, and the new one is worse than the others, believe me. Oh my gosh. There is nothing about this film that makes a lick of sense. The first film, as generic, as mediocre, as in-your-face expository as it is, at least has some sort of start, end, and progression in between. Venom: Let There Be Carnage is kind of schlocky, over-the-top dumb, and there is just very basic storytelling there, but at least it's something. Carnage has a horrible arc and doesn't do nearly enough justice to his character, but it's something. This is just nonsense, start to finish. We have a prologue with Null where he looks down at the floor and then narrates to the audience exactly who he is, what he's doing, and what is going to be happening throughout the rest of this film and why. He never looks up. Like, ever. He's always like this. Like this. Just like this. This is Null. The entire movie. How much do we get of Null in this movie? Oh, about like 80 seconds. Total, if I had to venture a guess. Basically, like, whatever Guardians of the Galaxy did with Thanos, that's Null in this movie. And then after that, we pick up with Eddie, where we left off with him in No Way Home, sitting in that bar in Mexico just before he's portaled out of there. However, it basically kind of retcons what happens in No Way Home, because instead of fading away due to Doctor Strange's spell, he all of a sudden goes through a multiverse portal or so. I don't know, it looked different. I don't really know what to make of that. I don't know why they did that. But, yeah. And then from there, Eddie and Venom are just on this... I don't even know what to call it. It's not a plot. It's not a series of fetch quests. It's like if a narrative was stumbling home from a bar for 2 hours. Which kind of fits, because that's exactly what Eddie is doing at the beginning of this film, and he's constantly complaining about having a hangover throughout the entirety of this movie. Much like Noah, we have a bunch of new characters that are just gonna tell you everything about them and their origin story and whatever, one of which is played by Juno Temple, and she plays... I'm not even going to pretend like I remember her name. But she's like this scientist lady, and apparently she has some tragic origin story that we get because she had a dream about it. And then, like, that just never is relevant ever again. The biggest questions I had going into this is, why do you have Chiwetel Ejiofor and Rhys Ifans in this film? I probably butchered both of those names, but I'm not going back. We have Baron Mordo, and we have the Lizard. And now they're playing characters in this Venom... I mean, I get it, multiverse is a totally different thing, but it's just weird because... literally saw this guy playing a totally different character 2 years ago. Literally saw this guy reprising a role from 2012 3 years ago. I don't know why it was necessary to cast these actors in these roles, because they literally did nothing other than just collect a paycheck that day. Honestly, I have no other explanation for why these actors, who are incredibly talented, mind you, signed on to something this stupid. Well, what's stupid? Get to the nitty gritty. Okay, how about this? How about there is no antagonist? How about we have this general guy played by Chiwetel Ejiofor? We have this scientist chick played by Juno Temple. We have Null, who's just not doing anything because he's in a prison or something. And then we have Toxin, who's being contained by the general and the scientists. Meanwhile, the general is trying to track down Venom, but then also Null is trying to track down Venom. So you got like all these different antagonists in here, but none of them have any substance, and none of them really do anything. The only, like, active antagonist is this... I don't even know what it's called. I'm just going to refer to it as the wood chipper cockroach, because that's exactly what it is. It is a giant, armored cockroach thing that eats people like a wood chipper and then spits blood out the back of its head. I don't know, but yeah, That's what it does. So the wood chipper cockroach is after Venom because Venom apparently has something called a codex in him. Because in the first Venom movie, when Riot stabbed Eddie through the chest, it killed him. And so when Venom like attached himself again and revived Eddie or whatever, that made them infused and bonded as one or something, and now they have a codex, which I don't know why this wasn't relevant ever before. I mean, we had another movie in between those events. Okay. But now, apparently, because it's doing Noel's bidding, the wood chipper cockroach is able to find them if Eddie goes into full Venom form. So anytime he's Eddie Brock, he's fine. It can't see him. And whenever Venom's sticking out of his back like a freaking puppet or whatever, it can't see him. And whenever Venom bonds with anything else like a horse or a frog or a fish or any of the other crap that he does in this movie, it can't see him. But when it's bonded to Eddie, then it's like, oh my gosh, I know exactly where you are. Boom! And it takes off and it goes to kill him. And it's just like, stop. There are moments where there is literally just the dumbest thing happening. There is no reason for anything to progress. And then all of a sudden, just to push the plot along because they have no other way of doing it, Venom just fully forms, and then, that just gives enough time for the wood chipper cockroach to attack him or whatever and get there. So, oh no, we have a big new set piece and we can move along with the story and ratchet up the stakes or whatever. There is a scene where they are in Vegas, and keep in mind, everyone is after them right now, but they are laying low and they're okay. And then, for whatever reason, because Dancing Queen starts playing, Venom transforms and then becomes a beacon for this freaking wood chipper cockroach, and then we have a fight. Just, oh my gosh. The other thing I want to bring up is Toxin. So Peter Mulligan, I believe that's his name. Mulligan was in the last movie. He, I thought, died at the end of Let There Be Carnage because all of a sudden we see him kind of get infused with something and then his eyes get all weird or whatever. And then like in this, he's infused with a different symbiote. So they're kind of retconning their own stuff. I don't know, whatever. And it's just weird because, okay, he fused with a symbiote after almost dying or getting killed or whatever. Doesn't that mean that he has a codex too? So why isn't it coming after him? Toxin is, from what I understand, I'm not the biggest expert when it comes to Venom comics and everything. I'm familiar with the character to a certain extent, but more so Venom than the whole symbiote world and everything like that. A friend of mine is really in depth on these stories and everything, and I default to him whenever it comes to stuff like that, and he came with me. I think he might have enjoyed this film a lot more than I did, but he even agreed that this movie was completely all over the place. Anyway, Toxin is kind of just like this exposition dump machine, which is funny because the only exposition he's dumping comes after Venom has already said the exact same information to Eddie in a previous scene. So for the context of the characters, yeah, it makes sense, but for the context of storytelling and as an audience member, you're bored because A, you have a cool symbiote on screen doing absolutely nothing and just telling you stuff you already know, so there's really no point to this scene other than just eating up time. And I know I've been talking about a few details here and there. I don't want to get into major spoilers, so I'll stay away from anything huge. But I just gotta say that this is an incredibly underwhelming film. None of the original cast from the previous films are back, aside from Mrs. Chen in a brief appearance, and like I mentioned, Mulligan from Let There Be Carnage. But everyone else is a brand new addition, really, has no character arc of any to speak of, and the only person who's even remotely on anything is, I guess, Eddie and Venom, but there's nothing to them either. I mean, you just get more of the same crap. It's Venom acting like an idiot and trying to be funny. It's painfully unfunny. I cannot tell you how many times there was jokes in the movie and they pause for people to laugh, and our theater was just stone-faced silent, except for like two people behind us who must have never heard a joke in their life and thought this was the funniest thing ever. But seriously, like, Tom Hardy is such a great actor. I don't know what he's doing with these movies. He must be having fun in some regard, because if he hated them, he wouldn't have been a producer on this. He wouldn't have made 3 of these things. But geez, I mean, I liked him as Bane, as much of a departure from the source material as that character was. I liked him in Peaky Blinders, Inception, Dunkirk. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that he's done that I really like. Even Bike Riders earlier this year. But my gosh, just I don't know what this accent is or this voice that he's doing is. I mean, when Eddie Brock is just like this is how Eddie Brock talks. He doesn't know how to talk other than like this, and he has these really rigid body movements.
Be honest with me. How fast do you think you can get that thing to go without killing it? No, I can absolutely guarantee you I'm not gonna.
And then you get Venom, who's just going like, "Ah, Eddie, you're a loser, Eddie.
Eddie, I need more money."
This movie is so bad. It puts the other ones to shame. Like, I think I've just had enough of Venom at this point. Maybe that's what it is. This is like the titan of the Sony Spider-Man universe right now because Morbius flopped twice. Madam Web was just miserable. They've got this Craven movie coming out later this year. And now apparently they have a live-action Spider-Man noir series starring Nicolas Cage that's supposed to be connected to this universe. Honestly, I'm kind of rooting for that show. I wish they would just disconnect it from this universe entirely. But speaking of the Sony Spider-Man universe, I posted a video about that a while ago. I'll have that linked right here so you can check that out if you really want to. But yeah, I mean, the movie for the most part is just a bunch of random crap, one after the other, without any sort of cohesion or logic to anything that's happening. The third act is probably the most fun part of the movie, I guess, or at least the part that people are going to like the most, I would assume. There's just a lot of cool action for the most part, I guess. It goes a little nuts and everything, and it ends in a weird place. I'm just going to say that. It ends in a weird place, and there's some serious tonal whiplash in those last few moments of this film where I think they were trying to play something serious, and I just found it completely laughable. Like, I was genuinely trying to suppress laughter because I was like, who do you think you are right now? You're Venom. Whatever this is, it's not working. It's coming off pretty bad right now. This feels like parody. And that's honestly what these Venom movies feel like. A parody of a well-written character. It's just frustrating seeing adaptations like Spectacular Spider-Man, which I think did the Venom symbiote saga the best, or even more recently as Spider-Man 2 on PS5, which I know some people were 50-50 on that game, but I thought it was really good, and I liked that Venom a lot more than I like this one. Getting back to Mulligan, there's a scene where they're trying to communicate with the symbiote through him or whatever, and so he's the vessel for Toxin, and he's talking, but it's really Toxin speaking through him, and at one point his voice drops super deep, and he's talking about like the darkness or something. Whatever he said, I missed everything after the darkness because the face that Stephen Graham is making combined with that voice was just so laughable, and it honestly sounded like a heavy metal voice or something like that. It was just so ridiculous. And again, Rhys Ifans, I don't know why he's even in this movie. It's just so jarring because he's the Lizard in previous Spider-Man movies, and now he's just some random hippie dude with a family that are like as useless to this movie as, well, I mean, the Russian family from Justice League, basically. I was glad that Jeremy Johns pointed that out because I knew I couldn't be the only person thinking that. And good lord, if you were worried that they wouldn't play the songs from the trailers for this movie, don't worry, they're both featured in here, sung by Rhys Ifans and his family. I cannot tell you how horrible it is hearing Space Oddity by David Bowie sung by these actors in a VW bus. Even Eddie hates it in the scene. It's supposed to be funny, but it goes on for so long, and it just starts grating on your nerves. Honestly, this year, I don't know which one was more cringy. Down the Witch's Road from Agatha All Along, or Space Oddity from Venom the Last Dance. I hate them both. I don't know where I stand. It's funny because usually in my videos at this point, I've talked enough about the film to a certain degree that I feel like I've covered enough of the substance of it without giving away specific details. But there is just nothing in this film at all that I can talk about other than what I've mentioned. I mean, cinematography-wise, there's nothing mind-blowing. It's all the same from the other stuff despite having different directors every time. The story is worse. The music is forgettable. And yeah. So bottom line, this Venom movie, let alone this Venom trilogy, is just exhausting, unfunny, and overall unnecessary. I don't know what Sony is trying to prove with these Spider-Man movies that don't feature Spider-Man, but I guess they were just proving that they don't need Spider-Man in their Spider-Man movies to make money because Venom movies make a stupid amount of money. We'll see how this one does. They've never been a critical success, but they have been a financial success somehow. So I have no idea how we got to 3 Venom movies, but I guess there's enough of a demographic for it to demand it. As a final score out of 10, I'm just going to give this one a 2. And as a final say on this, if I can give you any shred of encouragement as to whether or not you should see this film, just go watch Magpie instead. I have a review for that, by the way, too. Alright, so Venom: The Last Dance. I am dying to know what you actually think of this movie. Do not hold back your honest opinion about it one way or the other. Do you look at these movies and absolutely love them? Are these your favorite comic book movies ever? Am I totally in the wrong? Or are you like, yeah, no, these are complete garbage. I don't know why we have these and I wish they never existed. Whatever you think, comment down below. I would love to hear your opinions on it. Just don't go at each other's throats over it. It's just a movie after all. Definitely not the most important thing in the world. If you like this review, like this video, if you want to have more videos like this in your feed, then definitely subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell to stay updated of when I'm posting stuff. If you want, you can check out my links in the description and follow me on other platforms. I am on Instagram, Letterboxd, Serialized, and GG. Letterboxd where I post my movie reviews, Serialized where I post my TV show reviews, and GG is where I post my video game reviews. And not all those reviews make it onto this channel, so if you don't want to be waiting around for me to edit a video every single time you want to know my thoughts on a certain movie, TV show, or video game, then I highly suggest going into the description, giving me a follow on all those platforms. It doesn't cost you a thing. Until next time, guys, God be with you, and take care.